All right, guys, welcome back. Welcome if you are new. Thank you for checking out the content today. We have some gaming news, not necessarily any rumors, not necessarily any leaks, but just some general gaming news that we're going to be covering today. Just a couple of topics, but ones that I think are pretty interesting and that I think you guys might be interested in as well. So before we dive into these topics, do me a big favor as always. If you end up enjoying the content or finding it informative, leave it a like. Helps the videos out more than you know. And if you are new here to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button as well. The first topic we're diving into is a small but I guess we could say significant update to Spider-Man 2 because I honestly feel like anything we learn about Spider-Man 2 at this point is going to be considered significant because Sony still isn't talking about it yet. So I'm heading over here to PlayStation Lifestyle, and I have a title that says Spider-Man 2 PS5 motion capture and voiceover all done. This is coming from Yuri Lowenthal, the individual who is responsible for this. They say Insomniac Games and Sony Interactive Entertainment have been mum about Spider-Man 2 for PS5, but fresh comments made by Peter Parker actor Yuri Lowenthal suggest that the game is well on track to release later this year. Lowenthal recently held a Reddit Ask Me Anything session for Skybound game Homestead Arcana, which unsurprisingly ended with fans asking him about Spider-Man 2 instead. When asked if he was still doing motion capture and voiceover for Spider-Man 2, he responded that the work was all done. He didn't specify whether he was talking about his own role or the full game. However, given that we're heading into May, Insomniac is probably wrapping things up. The last time Lowenthal commented on Spider-Man 2 was back in January of this year, when he revealed that he still had a little bit of work left to do. This latest update should come as a relief for fans concerned about a possible delay, and it's worth noting that not that long ago, Venom actor Tony Todd seemingly teased a September 2023 release. I don't necessarily think it was a tease. Personally, I think that was a straight up leak. You could tell he wasn't supposed to reveal that, and apparently the big marketing cycle and the big marketing push for Spider-Man 2 is going to occur in August of this year. So we are very, very close. But yeah, this is something that a lot of PlayStation fans, a lot of Spider-Man fans have been paying attention to because, again, Sony hasn't been saying anything. Insomniac hasn't been saying anything, unfortunately. You can tell right now that Sony wants all of the focus to be on Final Fantasy 16. That's their next big PlayStation 5 exclusive. And I'll be honest, for as big and as exciting as Final Fantasy is, I think that if Sony were to start talking about Spider-Man 2 right now, releasing a trailer, showing gameplay, I think it's going to interfere with the marketing of Final Fantasy 16 and potentially take attention away from that. Sony does not want to create that conflict unnecessarily. So, yeah, what we're looking at here, we have the motion capture and voice actor for Spider-Man saying that the work is finished, it's complete. So this is a good sign that the game is on track. Now, I have seen some people speculating that maybe this isn't a good sign because if they're just now finishing up the voice acting and the motion capture work, surely there's a lot more left to be done that hasn't been completed yet. To be honest, I don't know how Insomniac works when it comes to their game development process, their cycles. I trust them. If Insomniac says that we're going to launch the game in fall, I mean, they have been absolutely on point this generation, and they have been releasing games at a rate, AAA games at a rate that honestly is staggering. So when they say the game's coming out fall of this year, I believe it. That's not to say there's no chance at all the game could suffer a delay. It absolutely could, but I have a lot of faith in Insomniac, and I think that this is actually a good sign. So obviously, when we get more information on Spider-Man 2, I will be sure to update you guys and let you know. Let me know your hype level for Spider-Man 2. Next up, we have something that isn't necessarily directly PlayStation related, but frankly, when I read it, I couldn't help but think about Sony and PlayStation, and specifically how important the AAA video game, the AAA exclusive is to the platform that is PlayStation, to the platform that is Nintendo, and also to the platform that is Xbox. So this is coming from Steven Totillo over on Twitter, and he put out a tweet. He says, most intriguing redactions from last week's amended complaint in the gamer lawsuit against the Microsoft Activision deal. So these are the two important takeaways. A Microsoft franchise sequel is on a possible 10-year development cycle. And the second important takeaway is that a presumably detailed explanation of something bad from May 22nd, or not May 22nd, May 2022, either something involving Redfall or Starfield, something bad has occurred. Now, I'm going to read to you what he's talking about here, because there's something, in my opinion, that is being revealed through this new information. Granted, there are a lot of redactions, so we're not getting like the actual details, like we're not getting the specific numbers, the specific names of games. So I'll read it to you and I'll let you know my thoughts on it. So it says here, franchises are AAA games from Sony. That's actually the ending there. It says here, Halo Infinite, a recent title from Microsoft's first-party Halo franchise, was in production blank, so they don't say how long it was in production, and it cost almost blank million to develop and bring to the market. So I would love to get these numbers. They're redacted. We don't know exactly how long Halo Infinite was in development for, and we do not know how much it cost, but we can imagine it was very, very expensive. It continues by saying other AAA games take even longer to develop. For instance, according to one Microsoft executive, blank, a forthcoming title from the blank franchise, may take a decade to develop. Now, people have been paying attention to this, and they're thinking that this is Bethesda's Elder Scrolls. They're talking about the Elder Scrolls taking over a decade to develop. Now, when I think of all of the franchises underneath Microsoft, yes, that's the one that to me makes the most sense. And this is all to create a bigger picture here, to make a point. It continues by saying access to AAA content is crucial for Microsoft, and the company strives to ensure a forthcoming title from blank franchise may take it. Sorry, it's all messed up here. I'll have to fix this in post. But it continues by saying access to AAA content is crucial for Microsoft, and the company strives to ensure that new AAA content is available on its console and subscription services on a regular basis. And underneath that, it says failure to have access to new AAA content has dire consequences. It continues by saying in May 2022, and this entire section is redacted. I encourage you guys to go check this out yourself. I will have it on screen, obviously, for you to see in the video. And so this entire section is redacted, and essentially what Microsoft is revealing here, or specifically Microsoft's lawyers, because they have access to this information, is that something really bad happened with the AAA game development pipeline over at Microsoft in May of 2022, and they are using this as an example to explain how failure to having access to AAA content has dire consequences. Now, obviously, you don't need Microsoft to come out here and tell you this. We can all look back to the entirety of 2022, where Microsoft didn't have really anything. They had no major AAA releases from their internal studios, including Bethesda. And yeah, it seems like it's having dire consequences. If you look at what's going on when it comes to Xbox console sales, they're down. They're down month over month. They're just not doing very well. And it was also reported by the NPD yesterday. I didn't talk about this, but it was reported by the NPD group, or they're formerly the NPD group. I think they're called Circana now. It was revealed that spending on subscription services is beginning to go down. It's actually not going up. So yes, Microsoft is very concerned, and I wanted to point this out because I think that there's just this kind of illusion right now, at least for the general masses, that they believe like, oh, we get the subscription service, we get a great deal, and Microsoft has the promise of all these games coming. But the reality is being revealed right here, and that is that Microsoft's failure to properly produce AAA content is having dire consequences and will have dire consequences. This is why when we talk about upcoming games like Redfall and Starfield when it comes to Xbox, and Game Pass, it's absolutely crucial that these games do something significant. At the very least, Starfield has to do something significant. And how this relates to Sony, in my opinion, is that I think there's a common thread here that no matter what Microsoft does, that no matter what Sony does, no matter what any major player in this industry does, the fact remains, whether it's through a subscription service, whether it's through a $70 premium purchase, or anything in between that, the fact remains, if you have a platform that you expect people to come to, whether that's by buying a console, subscribing to a service, you need to have AAA content, good AAA content, good AAA games, and you need to have them consistently. And when I look at this, Microsoft themselves is coming out and saying that we have failed to do this, and we have games that are going to take potentially 10 plus years to be finished. I mean, everybody got excited at the notion, Xbox fans anyway, excited at the notion of a game like The Elder Scrolls 6 potentially being exclusive to Xbox, but it seems like everybody kind of forgot that, well, it's likely over a decade away, right? And you have to think, what is Microsoft going to do for Game Pass in between that? In between Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6, what is Microsoft going to do? And this is why they're trying so hard to acquire Activision Blizzard. And it kind of does make a little bit more sense, doesn't it? So I wanted to take time to cover this. I would love to see what these redacted lines are actually saying, but unfortunately that's never going to happen. So I'm curious, you guys let me know your thoughts on this. It turns out that whether you're Microsoft, whether you're Sony, whether you're Game Pass, whether you're a premium full game purchase, AAA content at a consistent rate is absolutely needed, or it will have dire consequences. That's what Microsoft is saying. Let me know your thoughts. We're moving on to the final topic here. And this one, it's not that big of a deal, but I think it's somewhat interesting because we're already kind of seeing Sony being thrown into the mix here. I have an article from PlayStation Lifestyle, and they say that FTC is accused of siding with Sony over the Microsoft Activision deal. The United States Federal Trade Commission, or the FTC chair, Lina Khan, has been grilled by lawmakers for allegedly siding with Sony over the Microsoft Activision deal. Khan appeared at a congressional hearing on Tuesday discussing a number of topics, among which the issue of Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard came up a few times. Several videos circulating on Twitter show multiple lawmakers quizzing Lina Khan about siding with Sony despite its dominant position, in response to which Khan said that as a matter of policy, the FTC obtains feedback from market players who are likely to be impacted by mergers and acquisitions irrespective of their side. Khan said that she's not in a position to go into specifics about the deal because a decision has yet to be made, but argued that the FTC makes its own independent judgments based on law and facts. On one occasion, Khan was quizzed about the FTC coordinating with foreign regulators to block U.S. companies from mergers and acquisitions, to which Khan said that the FTC liaises with counterparts in other countries, but denied that it's to the detriment of U.S. companies. So, yeah, things are beginning to heat up once again for those who are wondering why. Well, it's because next week on the 26th, which is on Wednesday, I believe, the CMA, the UK regulatory body, is going to come out and they're going to give their final report on this Activision Blizzard deal. And there's a 99% chance that they're going to say, go ahead, Microsoft, we're giving you the green light. It seems that the European regulator is also going to give Microsoft the green light. So at this point in time, the FTC seems to be really the only major roadblock potentially for Microsoft. And we are already seeing, as you can see with this, we are already seeing Sony kind of being thrown in here where now the FTC is being accused of siding with Sony. Now, look, I'm not going to go deep into this right now about whether or not there's something wrong with this, but what I will say is that the FTC seems to have a bone to pick with not just Microsoft, but big tech in general, right? Like, I mean, it's easy to say that you're siding with Sony, and I think it's easy to say that because Sony is really the only major player out here making it crystal clear that they want this thing blocked. So it's natural that people are going to look at this and they're going to say, you're siding with Sony, you're trying to protect Sony. To be honest, I don't think the FTC cares at all about protecting Sony. If I'm being frank, I think that this is mainly about the FTC and them trying to essentially stick it to Microsoft. I think Microsoft is aware of that. That's why they're not backing down. That's why they're willing to go to court. And if you listen to a lot of different opinions from people who are very well versed on the legal side of things here, they all kind of come to the same conclusion, which is, while we do have to take it seriously that the FTC is suing Microsoft, it seems like the FTC is going to have a hard time here. And the fact that the CMA is about to come out and approve it, and the European regulator seems like it's going to do the same thing. Sony's been awfully quiet, which I think is smart. And I think Sony needs to stay quiet. I think Sony needs to just stop and just let this go as it's going to go. It seems like the FTC might be standing out there alone, taking on Microsoft, and we'll have to see how that happens. But there you go. The FTC's Lena Khan is essentially being accused of siding with Sony. Maybe she's, I don't know, maybe she's a big PlayStation fan, I don't know. It's hard to say, but there you go. That's what I have for you guys today. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Again, leave it a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you're new. And I will catch you guys in the next one. I'm now going to move over to the chat here. Definitely some interesting stuff to be discussing today. Let me get this sorted out really quickly so I can begin to interact with you guys and potentially go on some rants here. I don't know. We're going to be going on rants. We're going to be hyping things up. It's hard to say. I think we're leaning a little bit towards being somewhat ranty today. I think that's a possibility. But I see you're saying you want a Horizon Forbidden West woke rant MBG. You're not going to get it from me. That's not how I see things. Okay. I want you to keep this in mind. Okay. I want you to keep this in mind because I've been seeing this a lot, and I don't really want to get engaged with this because I think I think people are trying to turn this into something it's really not. And I'm going to tell you why. Yes, it's true that in Sony games, there are gay characters. Some of these characters are main characters and protagonists in some of Sony's games. But here's the thing. When you see people getting so upset about this, and people talk about they're pushing a woke agenda and whatnot, like, listen, I want you to just keep in mind that it's not just Horizon. It's not just The Last of Us. Why are we not paying attention to the fact that if you play a game like God of War Ragnarok, okay, that was a story about Kratos, a manly man, being a father, caring about being a father, caring about being a husband, multiple scenes between him and his wife and his son. But not just that. What about Peter Parker and MJ? What about Deacon St. John and his wife Sarah? What about Nathan Drake and his wife Elena? Right? This is where I'm saying that people need to be fair about it. If you're going to scream that Sony's being woke and they're making all of their characters gay, they're not. What about Joel? As far as I'm aware, Joel's not a gay character, So I just think people need to slow their roll, where it's like you might see a couple people saying, and I'm not going to spoil anything, I had accidental spoilers in my stream yesterday. I'm not going to do that here, but you might see some people coming out and, screaming woke and saying Sony's woke and blah, blah, blah. It's like, listen, it's not that simple. You have to see, if you're going to try to paint a picture, make sure you're painting the whole picture. Make sure people are seeing the entire picture. You're saying Joel is dead. Well, you know what? That might be true. They may have killed Joel, but here are two facts for you. Number one, just because Joel died at the beginning of The Last of Us Part 2 doesn't mean he wasn't featured prominently in the game. And I would argue that, and this is coming from somebody who didn't really fully enjoy The Last of Us 2, when they had Joel in the game, the flashback sequences, which there were quite a few, he was being portrayed as like a pretty decent guy, right? Like as a guy who maybe did some bad things, yeah, in a messed up world, but he settled down and he's Father Joel now, right? Like he's doing his wood carvings, he's playing the guitar, he's drinking his coffee. I think that's cool. Like I actually think that was a really nice thing for them to do for Joel. It sucks that, he had to die the way he did. It was brutal. It was intense. But I just think people need to slow it down. Now, look, if we get to a point where when we're looking at all the PlayStation mascots and all the major AAA, and also Jin Sakai, by the way, there wasn't much romance in Ghost of Tsushima, but there was some there with I forget her name. She's like his partner essentially. I feel like I should know her name, but it's eluding me right now. But it's clear that there's something there between them. Yuna, there we go. Thank you. Chad always got my back. Like, it's clear that there's something there between Jin and Yuna. So this is where I'm saying, like, guys, you're seeing a couple of examples because PlayStation, yeah, they are trying to be more inclusive, obviously. But what people are doing is they're taking these few examples and saying this is all of PlayStation, and they're ignoring literally everything else. And I think that's completely unfair. Now, if we get to a point where when we talk about every PlayStation exclusive and all the major mascots and literally every single one of them is gay, then we can have a conversation about Sony going too far in one direction and being too extreme about it. That would be the opposite of inclusivity, right? And that's not what anybody's saying they want to see. What people are saying they want to see is just some more diversity, some more inclusivity. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think people need to calm down, really, because they go like from 0 to 1,000. And believe me, I know a lot about that. As you know, I rant a lot. But this is an area where it's like, guys, Aloy's gay, or I don't know, apparently she's more bi than anything. But either way, like, okay, does that mean every character now? No, I don't think so. You're saying forced diversity is the problem? Well, to be honest, I think that, there are definitely, I don't know if there's many examples underneath PlayStation specifically, but I will agree that one of the problems in entertainment these days is that a lot of it does feel forced. And the reason why it feels forced, I think there are two reasons. Number one, it's either due to bad writing, just like straight up, like whether it was trying to be inclusive or not, it's bad because it's bad writing. And if you're trying to achieve a goal, you're not going to achieve it through bad writing and bad storytelling. So there's that. And the second thing is I do think that there are people with agendas on both sides, no doubt about it. And I think what happens is these are what we would consider extreme individuals who they only deal in extremes. And when they are in charge of something, they then decide that the main goal is to push something that they know will anger and frustrate the other side. It's no longer about the actual fan. It's no longer about the actual product or the actual story. It's about pissing a certain group of people off. And that happens on both sides. And this is why I'm trying to bring people to the middle and get people to understand that PlayStation can have straight characters and PlayStation can have gay characters. And some of those characters can be main protagonists. Some of them can be side characters, and it's perfectly fine. It's not just one or the other. And that's fine. And I think that's where we should be. And I think that that's that's where people should be striving to be, in the middle, having a balance. Not one extreme or the other. That was a bit of a that was definitely a bit of a tangent there. That wasn't necessarily going to be my first talking point here. But yeah, guys, I'm going to use this as an opportunity. Okay, I'm going to use this as an opportunity before I read these super chats from Kipford. Guys, if you appreciate Rant or Hype with MBG, if you appreciate the daily streams, please consider donating a super chat, becoming a channel member if you are not a channel member, or gifting channel memberships. I've had this goal up here on pretty much a daily basis of hitting 25 new channel members, and each day so far, except for one, you guys have been coming out and absolutely destroying it. You've absolutely been making sure that you're supporting the community, you're gifting those memberships, you're becoming members. And our memberships have grown. The member community, I should say, has grown quite a bit. So I do have, obviously, emojis out there now for you. A couple things that are still in the works. So consider doing that. Consider gifting some memberships if that's what you want to do. I'd really appreciate it. We have Kipford saying, I don't care about the sexuality of what sexuality Aloy is. The game is great. She had a great connection with Seika. Is that how you say Seika? I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. I don't see an issue with it. P.S. I beat the DLC and 100% already. That is wild, Kipford. Good for you, man. Yeah, I mean, you were saying like what now? You have like 700 hours or something in Horizon. So good for you, dude. That's impressive. And to 100% completed already. Wow. I mean, it's been what, a day? It's been a day. So good job. And yeah, I mean, look, I saw the scene and it was fine. Like, I'll be honest, when it comes to Aloy as a character, she's never really been one of my favorite characters. You know, I've never had an issue with Aloy as a character. I've always just kind of figured, you know, she is, in my opinion, Aloy always took a back seat and I thought that this was okay. I thought that this is how it should have been. Aloy always took a back seat to the world and what's going on in this world. In my opinion, that to me, that's always been, I've always been intrigued in Aloy's story to a degree. I've always been intrigued by, like, you know, how she came to be. You know, I don't want to get into too many spoilers here, but there were a lot of things about Aloy's character that were intriguing, but frankly, her personality was not one of them. And certainly her sexuality was not one of them. So I do understand why some people might think it's a little bit forced, but I will say that one of the things that I always thought was interesting is how Aloy pretty much avoided having any type of romantic relationship. There were a couple hints here and there about, you know, potentially that maybe it could have went somewhere, but they always made it clear that, like, she's focused on the mission. She's not really focused on that. And I was okay with that. I always just figured, okay, well, you know, it's clear that they want the world and what's going on in this world and her being the hero that's going to save it. They want that to be at the forefront. And it seems like now this is their way of saying, okay, now we're going to dive into a little bit more of Aloy's character, you know, make her have a bit of romance here. And I think that's fine as well. I'm curious to see, like, how it may impact the third game potentially. But yeah, I'll be honest, like, when it comes to Aloy as a character, she's never really been one of my favorite characters. I'll be honest, like, she hasn't had that much of a personality. And the reason for that is because her personality has always been just very straightforward, very much like, I'm a warrior, I'm a fighter, and to a degree, I'm a savior, right? And so I'm just going to do my job and I'm going to kick ass. And I'm like, sounds good to me. And so if they want to use this as an opportunity to kind of flesh out her character more, give her character more of a, you know, distinct personality, I think that's fine. As long as they, you know, I mean, hopefully they do it well. So I have no problem with that. Okay, so let's begin the portion of the show that I know you guys are waiting for. Do we rant or do we hype? So we'll start here with Spider-Man 2. If you were listening, Spider-Man 2, Yuri Lowenthal, the voice actor and the mocap actor for Spider-Man, has come out and said, hey, we're finished. We are done with the mocap. We're done with the voiceovers. Everything's done. Obviously, it's hype, but I'm leaning more towards meh. Gotta be honest. And there's a reason for that. The reason why I'm leaning more towards meh is because I'm getting a little bit tired, honestly, of getting updates on Spider-Man 2 from everybody except Insomniac, from everybody except Sony. You know, it's why people weren't necessarily super hyped when Tony Todd leaked that Spider-Man 2 is coming out this September. Like, people were like, oh, of course, that's how we were going to learn about that. No trailer, you know, no release date trailer. Nope. Tony Todd accidentally revealing it. So I think it's understandable why there isn't much hype. And I feel like it's the same situation here, right? Where we have Yuri coming out and just saying, yeah, guys, it's done. And they're working on it. And it's probably going to be out by the time, you know, they say it's going to be out. It's like, oh, okay. So par for the course. That doesn't mean I'm not hyped for Spider-Man, obviously. I'm extremely hyped for Spider-Man. But I'm just at a point where I have accepted that the reason why Sony is not talking about Spider-Man 2 and likely won't be talking about Spider-Man 2 a whole lot until close to the release is because of Final Fantasy 16. We need to understand that Sony has a major, absolutely colossal AAA game that's going to sell a ton of PS5s and sell a ton of units, sell a ton of copies on the PS5, releasing in about 2 months. And so right now, Sony wants all of the focus to be on that. Now, here's the thing. I do think we will still see Spider-Man 2 before Final Fantasy 16 comes out. And I think it's going to come in the form of a PlayStation showcase. I think Sony's going to have a PlayStation showcase and we're going to get a new trailer. And I think that's okay. Like, I don't think Sony having a showcase and showing Spider-Man 2 off at that showcase, I don't think that's going to negatively impact Final Fantasy 16. I just think that if Sony were to drop a trailer out of nowhere and then start drip feeding information about Spider-Man in the way that right now we're getting a bunch of information about Final Fantasy 16, that would be potentially problematic. And we've seen how Sony does this. Take a look at God of War Ragnarok. People were wondering for many, many months leading up to probably, I'd say, around like August, not even that. It was probably around like the end of September going into October. People were wondering, like, how come Sony isn't talking about God of War Ragnarok? What is going on? A lot of people even thought it's going to get delayed. And no, Sony knew exactly what they were doing. They're like, we're going to engage the hype machine. We're going to do that about a month and a half up to launch. And that's not normally what we've seen from Sony. Sometimes in the past we have, but people are used to getting more information more frequently. But it worked really well. It worked really well, right? Like, they held on to all that information, and when they decided it's time to let people know, the game exploded. And it clearly did it worked wonders for the game because it's the best-selling PlayStation first-party game of all time. So you can't really argue with those results. So the idea that Sony's going to take what they did for God of War Ragnarok and say, maybe we should do this for Spider-Man as well. Yeah, I mean, why not? It makes sense to do that. So, yeah, when it comes to the topic of Spider-Man 2, I'm feeling pretty hype. But for this particular topic, kind of meh. You know, it's nice to get a little update. It's nice to have a little something to talk about. But yeah, but we need to start seeing Sony come out and make some moves, right? Make some moves, however they want to do it. Now, the next topic, this one I think is a little bit meatier. I think this one I definitely have a little bit more to say. So I don't know how many of you are just joining now, but if you are, you may have missed what I said. So basically what we have is Microsoft coming out and revealing that, first off, they have been struggling when it comes to AAA game development. This isn't a secret. I mean, it's not a secret. We all know this. We've all been talking about it. I've been talking about it. But one of the things that they say is essentially that failure to bring out and to allow players to have access to new AAA content has dire consequences. It's not just bad. It's not just a little bit like, oh, well, we can solve this problem. No, they're saying it has dire consequences. And it's pretty obvious, in my opinion, why Microsoft is desperately clawing at Activision Blizzard, trying to secure them, trying to lock them down. This was revealed with a new report. It's actually, as silly as it sounds, this was revealed because of it was the amended complaint in the gamer lawsuit against the Microsoft Activision deal, which is pretty funny to think about, the gamer lawsuit. But with this gamer lawsuit, we have Microsoft revealing that access to AAA content is crucial for Microsoft, and the company strives to ensure that new AAA content is available on its console and subscription services on a regular basis, which they have failed to do. Failure to have access to new AAA content has dire consequences. In May of 2022, blank, 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 blank. That's what it says. It says blank. We have Microsoft explaining a situation, a potential dire situation that occurred in May of 2022 that essentially led them to this conclusion. And something else that they're revealing is that they have a game in development over at Microsoft Studios that's going to take over a decade to develop. Isn't that just wild? Isn't that just insane? Saying the audio dropped a little bit. Let me put it up. Hopefully it's a little bit better now. Sorry about that. You're saying the audio went way, yeah, the audio probably went way low. I accidentally, I was trying to lower it just a little bit. How is it now? How is it now? Should be good now. I increased it. You fixed it, bro. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. Yeah, that was my bad. I meant to that's the trouble. I try to lower the gain a little bit and I end up lowering it way too much. It's very sensitive. So apologies for that. Fee Emery, you're saying MBG, I love the show. Chat, queerphobes, not so much. Yeah, hopefully, I mean, I'll be honest, it's been I've been trying to pay attention to the chat. It's a little bit hard to do so. I'm trying to read, so hopefully there's not anything like that going on in there. Any of my mods, if you see any of that stuff, just get rid of it. You know, we don't. I'm not trying to foster that here. You know, everybody's entitled to their opinions, of course, but you know, be kind, be fair. Don't be an a-hole for no reason. You know, just don't be an a-hole in general. So thank you for that. Abu Jangi, you're saying Horizon Forbidden West had the options for romance from the start. Salty. I'm not. Maybe you're right. I don't know, man. Like I don't recall there ever being a way to really pursue like actual like romance. Maybe I missed it. I don't know. I feel like there were hints of it. There were hints of it. Like they definitely let you play around a little bit, but it never led to anything. And I think that's why I was left so confused because I felt like they were going to eventually let it lead to something. And I guess they did in a way, but you know, they decided to do it a little bit later on in the DLC. So again, I question how important it's going to be in the future only because for something that's supposed to be so important to her character, they put it in a DLC that frankly the majority of people aren't going to play. So I have to question like, you know, what they're going to do going forward if it's actually going to be that significant. We'll have to see about that. Pragmatic Cat, or sorry, not Pragmatic Cat. Message was deleted by Pragmatic Cat. So this is interesting. I wonder why this is. Whiskey Gaming with the $2. Not sure what was said there. I didn't I didn't quite catch that. Thank you. Got some Gatorade now. Definitely much needed. Dehydrated over here. Wifey brought me some Gatorade. She brought me the blue Gatorade. Yeah, I didn't know that was even a possibility. So I'm sorry, Whiskey Gaming. I can't read the super chat. It was somehow deleted. I didn't even know that was a thing that could happen. Was it? I don't know if it was an accident. So saying nothing too bad, just not classy. Okay. But you can just put it in the chat, and if it's that bad, I won't read it. But maybe I don't know. So, yeah. So just try to be careful with that. Let me see here. We got Himanshu Yadav saying Sony just increased the price of their games on PC in many regions. How do they keep getting away with it? I swear they do it just for fun now. Stop it, please. You're saying it was rude? Okay. I'm curious. Maybe somebody could just say what it was in the chat. I'll try to, just let me know that you're letting me know what it was said, like put it in quotes. Yeah, I saw this making the rounds. People are making a big deal about this. Himanshu, I understand. People are frustrated. Sony raised the price of a lot of their games on PC by I think about $10. By about $10. I gotta be honest. Okay. All right. Well, yeah. All right. I don't want. Yeah. Look, guys. Super chats, I appreciate. I don't want to see people fighting with each other, and with super chats. That's taking things to another level. All right. I don't want to see people getting on each other over super chats. All right. If you look, just direct your frustration at Microsoft. I'm kind of kidding, but it's like half kidding there. But yes, take that frustration and direct it towards Microsoft. Say you want some AAA games. We don't want any infighting here over such nonsense. All right. It doesn't. That's the thing, guys. Like, it's not that serious either way. All right, we got bigger fish to fry here. But Himanshu, you're saying, I look, I'm going to be honest. Like, I know that there are going to be people who disagree with this, but I'm unapologetically myself at this point, and I'm going to give you my unapologetic thoughts. I don't care. Like, just straight up, I do not care that Sony is like, we're gonna raise the price of our games on PC in certain regions. And the thing is, naturally people are gonna say Sony's greedy, while simultaneously ignoring the current situation of the world when it comes to inflation, hyperinflation, the whole thing. Like, look, I'm not gonna sit here and make an excuse and say, well, Sony did that because of inflation. I mean, that's why they did it. I know people don't want to hear that. I know that. I know people are like, well, who cares? Like, okay, well, that's the reason. And look, I'm just going to be real right now. I don't care, man. Like, yeah, if Sony wanted to release games later on PC at the exact same price point, that being $70, I don't care. Like, this is where, frankly, I don't want to see Sony stray too far away from the focus being on consoles. And I don't know, man. I'm sorry. Like, PC players who are not here supporting PlayStation and PlayStation games, I don't feel for them. I don't. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not. But I'm just saying, like, I simply don't care. Buy a PlayStation, buy the games on PlayStation, show your support. If you're somebody who's just going to sit back and say, well, Sony will eventually release these games, so I'll just wait, that's fine. Like, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that either, but I have no sympathy for you if you get worse versions of games, or if you get, more expensive games to a degree. Like, it's just like, hey, man, I don't know. Go get a PS5. You won't get broken games. You'll probably pay the same price for them. But that doesn't excuse Sony. Like, listen, I'm not saying Sony should put out broken games. They absolutely shouldn't. What happened with The Last of Us, unjustifiable. But I'm just saying that from my perspective, it's hard for me to feel bad. It's hard for me to feel bad. Like, dude, there's a reason why Sony hasn't been on PC for a long time. And PC players need to know this. They need to know this. And I'm sure they do at this point. Because this is the truth. Sony doesn't care about you. Sony does not care about PC players. Sony cares about extracting any money they can from PC players as extra money, as the little cushion on top. But PC players are not Sony's priority. They never have been. They never will be. And I think the sooner that PC players realize this, the easier it'll be to just, if you want to play Sony's games, at this point, I really do think between The Last of Us Part 1 releasing broken and now they're raising the price of the games in certain regions, maybe it would be better. I don't know. The more I'm talking about this, I'm almost thinking, like, is this Sony's way of trying to like push PC players to actually go get a PS5? Where it's like, we'll dangle our games in front of you, but we'll make them just as expensive and potentially broken in the case of The Last of Us. And you'll get so frustrated, it'll just be like, you know what, screw this, I'm just gonna go get a PS5. Interesting tactic if true. GC84, you're saying, MBG, look at WWHW charts for March. PS5 greater than 2 million sold. That's insane, dude. Yeah, dude, I've been seeing these different charts pop up on Twitter. The PS5 is on fire, man. Like, I would be panicking, truly. Not if I was Nintendo, because Nintendo is still doing fine. Nintendo, the Switch did amazingly well. It's at the end of its life. They have a new Switch model, a new console that they're going to be revealing, and everybody's going to go nuts over that. So Nintendo's fine. If I was Microsoft, I would be sweating. I would be sweating so hard, thinking like, dude, we are getting obliterated, absolutely crushed to a concerning degree. So that's definitely impressive. But getting back to what we were talking about, Microsoft revealing that their struggle with AAA games is having dire consequences. This is interesting to me because there have been a couple times where the conversation has been brought up, and the conversation is, if this deal doesn't go, like, how important is the Activision Blizzard deal to Microsoft, to the Xbox brand, versus how important is it to Sony? And we've seen, and I talked about this yesterday, but it's definitely relevant to bring up now because of this topic, because of what Microsoft has said. To me, it is clear as day. Yes, Microsoft literally needs it. And if I was an Xbox fan, I wouldn't be feeling too good right now, dude. I really wouldn't. Because I think that Microsoft at this point, I remember I put out a tweet. This was a while ago, but I put out this tweet, and it was when I was more against this acquisition. Like, I was very much like, I'm with Sony. This should be blocked. Microsoft shouldn't be allowed to do something like this just because they're sucking, right? And I remember I put out this tweet where I was like, how is it that Microsoft can, in 2018, acquire 5 independent studios, and then a couple years later acquire all of Bethesda, and then still determine that that's not enough? I think I said it in response to what Microsoft's president, Brad Smith, came out and said, because that's what he said. He gave his case, Microsoft's case, that is, to the European regulator, and that's what he said. He said that even though we have Bethesda, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, but we have Bethesda, we have all these studios, we have more studios than our competition, but it's not enough. We need Activision Blizzard. We need them to compete. And I really thought, like, that is a load of bull. I really thought that. Like, I really thought, like, shouldn't Redfall and Starfield and future Bethesda games on top of internal Xbox studio games, shouldn't they be enough? Nope. Because it's worth noting that the section that I read here, the section where Microsoft says that failure to have access to new AAA content has dire consequences, and then they say in May of 2022, this happened to prove it. This is what happened in May of 2022 to prove it. That's after they acquired Bethesda. And they're very likely talking about a Bethesda game. So essentially what we are seeing here is Microsoft coming out. They're coming out and they're saying, so we bought Bethesda, and the next big game in line from them, not Redfall, I'm talking like the next big game from them, is Starfield. Maybe they were talking about Redfall, but I think they were talking about both. They're coming out and they're basically saying that we still couldn't figure it out. Like, we still couldn't make it work. And they're talking about the long... See, I will say, though, this argument I don't think works in Microsoft's favor either, because we have to understand that this stuff was written up by Microsoft's lawyers. And the reason why they're saying this is to paint a specific picture. The picture that they're trying to paint is simple. Modern AAA game development is expensive, more expensive than it's ever been, and it takes longer than it ever has. It takes many years, and we even have a game that's in development that's going to take a decade plus. They say this, they then go on to argue that this is why it's extremely important to have a steady flow of AAA content for their service, that being Game Pass, but also for their platform in general, including their consoles, Xbox. What's crazy to me is that we are once again witnessing Microsoft be utterly pathetic by coming out and admitting that straight up, they are ass at their job. They don't know what they're doing. They have failed over and over again, and they are coming out and they are using this failure as the excuse. This is why we should be allowed to buy Activision Blizzard. And frankly, it's hard to argue because you can't. Because that is the argument. The argument is we have failed so monumentally. Even after buying Bethesda, that we need this. And so the question, it's always this. It's always, is Microsoft telling the truth or are they lying? Are they telling the truth or are they lying? Because if they're lying, it means that they don't actually believe as much as they're saying. And they're planning to take over. Sony's angle on this whole thing is, I would love to get more insight into Sony with this. I would. And it's tough to really get an idea of how Sony actually feels. I mean, we had that quote, right, from Jim Ryan, supposedly. That's the thing, allegedly. Allegedly, during a meeting internally at Sony, somebody had asked Jim Ryan, like, do we actually see Game Pass as a threat? And Jim Ryan was like, well, we are selling more consoles in a shorter period of time than Game Pass is getting subscribers. And we have more subscribers on our service without putting games there day and date. He didn't say that, but without putting games there day and date than Game Pass does. So he's like, yeah, we're not, it's not really a threat. So when I think about that, the fact that Jim Ryan apparently, allegedly said that, and then I look at what Microsoft's coming out here saying, essentially that, like, dude, we can't do this. Like, we need to buy these guys to help us survive. I'm coming to I truly am coming to the conclusion, and this is hard for me to, it's not hard for me to believe, it's hard for me to accept, is what it is. And this is why I genuinely have to wonder, like, how there are even still Xbox fans. It is difficult for me to accept that Microsoft has done such a bad job that, like, we are at a point where they've convinced me and potentially everybody else that, yeah, dude, if you don't get Activision Blizzard, you guys are toast. And I'll be honest, when I look at the numbers, right, not to sound like a broken record, but it's just worth pointing this out to help reinforce my point here. When I look, plus 500% increase PS5 sales yesterday, we learned about. PS5 now outpacing the PS4. Sony is out here announcing games like God of War Ragnarok are setting new records for them. When I see that, and then I see subscription service spending down, Xbox console sales down. I mean, at what point do we all maybe come to the conclusion and the realization that I think Microsoft is telling the truth? And that's crazy. Like, that is so weird to me. I almost wonder, like, Microsoft's CEO, the board of Microsoft, they're not stupid, right? Like, they're not dumb. You can't be, as far as I'm aware, you can't be dumb and get to that position. Maybe you can. I don't know exactly, but I would assume you can't be dumb and get to that position. So what I'm thinking about now is that, did Phil bite off more than he can chew? Because I don't think Jim Ryan did. What do I mean by this? You're saying, yes, you absolutely can. I guess you're right, yeah. I put out this tweet yesterday, all right? I'm not going to bring it up on screen, but I want to read it to you. And because I was thinking about it. I was like, there's been, don't get me wrong, Jim Ryan, he's said some not so great things. And I understand it's easy to hate on Jim Ryan. I get it. But I put out this tweet yesterday, and I said, obviously it was a bit sarcastic. I said, Jim Ryan is such a bad CEO for PlayStation. Yeah, PS5 sales may be up 500% year over year. Yeah, the PS5 is now selling faster than the PS4. And yeah, Sony has been delivering quality content consistently since the PS5 launched. But, oh wait, there's no but. There's no but. The results speak for themselves. The results speak for Jim Ryan. When Jim Ryan opens his mouth, it seems like people always have a problem with it. But at the end of the day, this man is producing results, not just for his company and the brand he's in charge of, but for the player as well. The player. I want to emphasize that. The player, the consumer. Jim Ryan isn't paying attention to these dumbass comments online of people, oh my God, Sony's so anti-consumer. Yeah, Sony's so anti-consumer. That's why people are going out there in droves to give them their money for their product and their games. How anti-consumer of you, Sony? How anti-consumer of you, Jim? And I'm just so happy to see this. Like, I really am, because this is exactly what I've been arguing for literally years now, and we're seeing it play out right in front of our faces. I never thought I'd see the day. I never thought I'd see the day where Microsoft comes out here so pathetically saying, we're just garbage and we don't know how to manage our studios. We bought an entire publisher and we still fucked up. So we need to buy another one. That's why we should be allowed to do it. They're out here on their hands and knees, along with their fans, begging, please save our brand. Because if you don't, it's going to go away. The CEO of Microsoft said it's going to go away if we can't figure it out. And I think Phil bit off more than he can chew, man. I think he devised the plan, and he said, the plan is, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to tell Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, we're going to turn Xbox into a subscription, and we're going to feed that subscription, and we're going to grow that subscription. And so Satya Nadella asks, well, how are we going to do that? And Phil says, with good games, with many games. And then Satya Nadella probably asks, well, I mean, we don't have many studios. We haven't been releasing a whole lot of games, and that's where Phil's big plan comes. He says, well, that's the thing, Satya. We're going to need some money. I'm going to have to go talk to the CFO of Microsoft. We're going to need some money. We're going to need to dip into the vault here and make it happen so we can have enough content. So he does it. He does it with Bethesda, and here we are. Here we are, almost a year later. Almost 2 years later at this point, but a year later, where Microsoft is now saying, hey, we messed up. We can't even properly manage Bethesda. So, I think I'm not trying to make this like a let's just find another excuse to hate on Xbox situation, but it's just that I think at some point I begin to ask myself, like, at what point do people maybe come together, right, and say, Microsoft doesn't deserve Activision Blizzard? And I know that that's not how this works. That's not how this works. Like, if we could all come together and say they don't deserve Activision Blizzard, they don't deserve Bethesda, we could say that. And to be fair, yes, a lot of people do say that, but it's not going to stop it. So I guess I'm trying to say that a part of me still feels that way. A part of me still feels like Microsoft shouldn't be allowed to do this. This should not be the way Microsoft is allowed to get out of this situation, because it's bullshit. It is bullshit. The Xbox brand, Microsoft as a company, they should be at a position where suffer the consequences of your own failure. But they're not. This is their get out of jail free card. Money. And I get it. Yes, capitalism, that's the way it is. Can't argue with it. Because it's like, dude, they're making it happen. And I'll tell you right now, I've said it over and over again. I'll say it again. Like, this thing's going through. This thing is going through. No doubt about it. But to me, it's just absolutely sad to envision a future where Microsoft, the success that they find is so artificial, so just, there's nothing genuine about it. There's nothing real about it. That's sad, man. So ultimately, I sit here and I question how supposed Xbox fans I seriously question like how they can read something like this coming from Microsoft themselves and just say, well, you know, yeah, this is why we're cheering it on. That's just my opinion. That's just how I feel. You're saying 100 million consoles versus 100 million Game Pass subs, which is better when it comes to how much money you make? Well, to be honest, a lot of math, a lot of number crunching would have to be done. But here's what I will say. Something you have to take into consideration. Something you have to take into consideration is, well, first of all, I mean, 100 million consoles sold, let's say at $500. Yeah, it's not the same as 100 million subscribers all paying $10 a month. They're very different things. But the main thing about the console experience that I think people need to understand is that it's, it's about the sunk cost, really. Like, people who are willing to spend a premium price on a piece of hardware, a dedicated piece of hardware, $500 for a PS5, people who are willing to do that, they're also very, very, very likely going to be willing. They're going to be willing to spend more money on that platform, on games, on subscription services that are available on that console, on DLC, on microtransactions. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because Microsoft understands this, hence why they still care about selling consoles. The console isn't the priority, but hasn't anybody asked, why does Microsoft still sell a console? This is why. Because they know that every console they sell, it's going to be so much easier now to tell that person who was willing to buy a console, please subscribe to Game Pass. It's almost a given. It's almost a given. It's like, how many people are going to buy an Xbox console and not automatically subscribe to Game Pass and do a lot more, right? Invest even more money. This is the model of the console. This is why everything revolves around the console, because you are trying to court people who are willing to spend money. Microsoft is having a struggle because what they chose to do with Game Pass, it's the literal opposite. They're trying to court people who don't want to spend money. That's the truth. That's what they're doing, or as little money as possible. And they're promising them something. The key promise with Game Pass is you get our games day and date. Our AAA games day and date. Why do you think Game Pass is struggling? Why do you think, here's a better question. You're asking me which one makes more money. Okay, we could do the math. We could do the math. And I don't know what that equates to. But you know why I'm not going to waste my time doing that math? Because it doesn't matter. Game Pass is nowhere fucking near 100 million subscribers. Not even close. And you could argue, you could say, well, the PS5 isn't either. Yeah, but you know what the difference is? Sony's gotten to 100 million consoles sold many times in the past, and the PS5 is absolutely on that path. The same cannot be said for Game Pass. Game Pass is the first of its kind, trying to do what it's doing, and it's struggling. It's struggling. It's not succeeding. So rather than sit here and, count your chickens before they hatch, right? You might want to think to yourself, well, how the hell is Microsoft going to get to 100 million Game Pass subs? How is that going to happen? Because I'll tell you right now, I know exactly how the PS5 is going to get to 100 million consoles sold. I know exactly how that's going to happen. And you know what the through line is? The through line between how Sony's going to get 100 million consoles sold and how Game Pass gets to 80 or 100 million subscribers, it requires the same exact thing. It requires the same exact thing. Quality, consistent AAA content. That's how it happens. Or, as Space D says, Call of Duty on Game Pass. Why worry about developing your own quality AAA content when you can just buy it and own it and Take something that's already a guaranteed success and throw it in there. Do you see what I'm saying? You guys are proving my point for me. Some of you. You're proving it. You see how that sucks? Like that, does that sound like this is why I've changed my tune and I've said, you know what, Sony, please stop crying about Call of Duty, because this is pathetic. Because I woke up one day and I realized that, dude, I don't want a Sony, a PlayStation, as a fan that is this desperately reliant on Call of Duty. That's the last thing I want. That's sad. That is pathetic. And in my opinion, that is not indicative of a quality platform. It's God of War's 5th birthday. God of War 2018. Man, it's crazy to think it's already been 5 years. What a great game. Let me see here. So, Perfect Image, you're saying, did you see that new shooter game trending? Yeah, I did. It looks interesting. I don't know that I'm excited for it, though. That new shooter game you're talking about, it's basically a first-person shooter. It's called like Body Cam or something, and it's played from the perspective of a body cam. And I'm gonna be honest, I'm not excited for that. Like, that sounds nauseating to me. Unrecorded, is that what it's called? It looks cool, but I don't know that I would want to play a game like that. You know? Himanshu Udav, you're saying a team winning trophies by spending money is wrong. Dude, listen. I'm going to be honest. I'm over the metaphors here and the comparisons and not the metaphors, the analogies. I'm over the analogies. Don't, like, let's not talk in metaphors. Let's not make analogies anymore. Let's just talk about what it is and what it's not. This is not a sports team. This is not a league. This is the video game industry. Microsoft is not a sports team. Xbox is not a sports team. Sony is not. PlayStation is not. These are brands. These are video game brands. These are technology brands and companies. So I'm going to be honest, man. Like, it's not, look, it's where things become difficult is do we inject morals? Are we going to attempt to inject morals into this discussion? That's for each individual to decide. For me personally, I'm banning analogies. Yeah. For me personally, I am a little bit. Himanshu Udav, you're saying, and COD has already overtaken XDefiant on Twitch. Well, I would hope so, dude. I was going to say, Call of Duty's going to have to start sweating, bro. Call of Duty's going to have to start sweating if they can't manage to get their numbers higher than XDefiant. Sony just acquired Firewalk. Heyo. Breaking news. Breaking news. Here we go. Thank you. Sony's like, goddamn MBG, you need to stop talking about Xbox. We got to give them something PlayStation related to talk about. Quick, make the announcement that we've acquired. All right, here we go. Great news. Firewalk Studios is joining the PlayStation Studios family. Okay, let me put here. Sony is getting ready to take the FPS genre a lot more seriously when it comes to PlayStation Studios, because that's the truth. That's what this is. That's why they acquired Firewalk. Let's go over the news. Great news! Firewalk Studios is joining the PlayStation Studios family. Learn more about this talented team and their plan to connect players in new and innovative ways in their ambitious upcoming multiplayer game. Let's see. You know what? I want to say this really quickly before I read this. You have to now ask yourself, you have to now wonder, how long was Sony sitting on this acquisition? I really wonder, because the timing of this is intriguing. Sony didn't announce their acquisition of this first-person shooter studio last week, or the week before that, or the month before that. They definitely didn't announce this during a time when Jim Ryan is coming out here making the arguments as why they need Call of Duty. See, to me, this sends the opposite message. This sends the opposite message. This is Sony showing they're planning to try to compete. All right, let's see. This is written up by Herman Jawline Holst. I almost said Holst. Wait, Holst. Yeah, Host. Anyway, he says, I'm excited to announce that we've expanded our relationship with Firewalk Studios and are thrilled to welcome them to PlayStation Studios. Firewalk is home to a remarkably talented team of creatives who have launched some of gaming's most celebrated experiences, and they're already hard at work on their first original AAA multiplayer game for PlayStation. Since announcing our publishing partnership with Probably Monsters and Firewalk in 2021, we continue to be impressed by the team's ambitions to build a modern multiplayer game that connects players in new and innovative ways. The studio shares our passion for creating inspiring worlds grounded in exceptional gameplay, and we want to continue to invest in their mission. We're excited for Firewalk to bring their technical and creative expertise to PlayStation Studios to help grow our live service operations and deliver something truly special for gamers. Please join me in welcoming Firewalk. Now, this is a write-up from Tony Sue, I think is how you say his name, and Ryan Ellis, the studio head and game director of Firewalk Studios. They say, every once in a while, you get to have an adventure. Over 5 years ago, we jumped at the chance to set up a new studio and build a new IP from the ground up. Recalling our own favorite times with games, we founded Firewalk Studios around the idea of delivering memorable moments. Those amazing had to be their times shared with other people. Our goal is to deliver those shared moments of joy to players around the world. Building a new studio at scale has been an incredibly exhilarating and relentlessly daunting task. Fortunately, we've been supported by great partners throughout. Probably Monsters helped turbocharge us in setting up the studio, and Sony has been supporting our project and our creative vision from the beginning. We've assembled some of the most inspired talent in the industry to deliver awe-inspiring new worlds and experiences filled with great core gameplay. The excitement of building something new for players here thoroughly energized the team and our partners, and we've been playtesting every day. Today, we're taking the next natural step and joining PlayStation Studios. We've worked closely with Herman and the very, very talented team at PlayStation for years, helping to make our new game even better. To join PlayStation Studios is to formally become part of a family that has produced many of the most storied games of our age, and we are honored. We want to thank everyone who supported us along the way and those looking forward to our future. It's been an incredible journey so far, and we can't wait for the next chapter in this adventure. And I want to point out that at no point during this entire write-up do they say, by the way, we're making a multiplayer first-person shooter. It almost seems like they purposely went out of their way to not mention that, to don't mention FPS, don't say shooter, say everything except that, but that is what Firewalk is working on. Unless something changed, but I don't think anything changed. Okay, I don't think anything changed. That is very interesting to me. Firewalk is about 150 developers strong. I need to go find that write-up back from 2021. That's what I need to find, because I'm telling you, they made it clear they were making a shooter. Unless I'm wrong. I could be wrong on that. Let me check. Firewalk, PlayStation 2021. Where is it? PlayStation to exclusively publish multiplayer game from probably Monsters. I don't know if this is automatically going to play. Better not start playing. So yeah, it's going to be a first-person shooter because look at this: Firewalk's Tony Hsu, Ryan Ellis, along with the head of PlayStation Studios Herman Hulst. This is back in 2021. Spoke with IGN about why both parties wanted to partner for this project. How the team made up of former Destiny, Halo, Apex Legends, Call of Duty, and other devs. It's so obvious that they're building a first-person shooter. I'm just trying to see, I'm trying to find the part where they say it though. But it's obviously implied. We don't know too much. Firewalk hasn't confirmed in what realm of multiplayer the game will be. Shared universe, traditional competitive multiplayer, battle royale, some mix. Maybe I was wrong about this. Maybe they didn't say it was a first person shooter. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a third person game. I just find that hard to believe. You know what I mean? Like, doesn't that sound to me? That's difficult to believe that it's like we're a studio made up of all these developers from Bungie, Halo, Call of Duty, Apex Legends, and they all have something in common. They're like some of the most prominent first person shooters. Saying delete that tweet. Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. But I don't know, man. I would be shocked. Would you not be shocked? I would be shocked. If it's not an FPS game, then what the hell is it going to be? All right, maybe I'll add a follow-up to this. Although I don't know for sure if this will be a FPS, it is heavily implied. These are devs who have worked on COD, Halo, Destiny, Apex Legends, etc. So I'd be surprised if it wasn't an FPS. There we go. Just to make it clear, because I could, dude. Maybe I'm confusing Firewalk a little bit with Deviation Games, because I'm pretty sure Deviation Games did they even confirm whether or not they're doing an FPS? Man, what do you guys think though? Firewalk Games, that's another first party PlayStation studio. Sounds like they've been you know what's crazy is this game must be ready to show soon, because this game has been in the works for over 5 years. Let me see. White chicks and night chicks. You're saying you cap MBG. I like your profile picture. PSP reviewer 100. You're saying here's a theory for you. We didn't get a PlayStation showcase in 2022 because of the GTA 6 leak. Sony might be waiting for Rockstar to be ready. I mean, I don't know that Sony would delay an entire showcase just because of that, but my God, I've said it over and over again, guys. I've said it over and over again. If Sony has GTA 6 at their showcase, it's like you know that meme? You know that meme of it's like the Simpsons meme where he's like, stop it, like he's dead already, like stop it, you know, or however it goes. That's pretty much what that is, because dude, like, so Sony they already have some major like third party partnerships. If Sony gets a third party partnership with GTA 6, it's fucking over, dude. It is. Like Xbox is, I don't know. Stop, he's dead already. I don't know what, I mean, yeah, they can have Call of Duty and Game Pass, and I'm telling you, like this is what, dude, stuff like that is why I'm saying I think Microsoft needs that. I think Microsoft needs that. to compete because that's crazy. But let's go see what people are saying about this, the latest Sony acquisition. Oh my lord, man! It's like you got to put on your suit, your hazmat suit before going here. By the way, guys, come on now. 0 new members today. What are you doing? We had such a good thing going. Every day we were getting new members gifted. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to pressure anybody, but I was just surprised. Like 0 new members. 0 new members. What's going on? No more members? It's over? The hype train's over? But let me see what people are saying here. A lot of people are kind of confused, it seems, because they don't know, like, they don't know the studio. But something that somebody said is PlayStation must have really liked what they saw. Yeah, I mean, no doubt about that. Who did they acquire? Showcase time? Xbox fanboys comparing us to the Activision Blizzard acquisition in 3, 2, 1. There we go. Thank you, guys. There we go. PS Previewer 100 and Irate Volcano 71 coming in, gifting some memberships. Let's see. Chris Dennis gifted a membership thanks to Irate Volcano. And we got GC84 gifting a membership, or had a membership gifted to him by PS Preview. PSP. I'm sorry, man. I keep messing up your name. PSP Reviewer 100. Thank you, guys. And Kitford says, still hate Xbox. I love how that just like rolled the way it did. And we got Lady K gifting another 5 memberships. Thank you. Shout out to Lady K. Who wants to follow Lady K's lead here? Lady K coming in, gifting. Let's see. Chocobo Jam. Kamo. Medi. Reg Game Recon. And Raymond E. All gifted memberships. Thanks to Lady K coming in with the 5. Hi, MBG's mom. I mean, Lady K. MBG's mom. I don't know, man. I'm telling you, I don't like where this is going. But we're already seeing some thank yous coming in. So shout out to Lady K. Shout out to Irate Volcano and PSP Reviewer 100. Really appreciate that, guys. Let me see. That's 7. You're gonna hear it go off 7 times. I'll mute it for just a second. I'll mute it for a second because you guys don't have to hear it 7 more times, but I gotta add it. It's happening anyway, I think. There it is. Oh my god. I gotta figure that out, man. I gotta know why it doesn't count the gifted. That's just you're just gonna hear the alert go off over and over. Is Deviation next? I think Deviation's next. Yeah. I think Deviation's next. Looks like all the lead developers at Firewalk are all old Bungie leads. Yeah. Yeah. They have some talent there. That's for sure. That's another thing here is like Sony was confident enough to partner with this studio, liking what they're seeing the promise, but then they went from that to now we're just going to acquire them. They did the same thing with Haven. And you got to wonder if they're going to do the same thing with Deviation. JDTV, member for 23 months. Thank you, bud. You're saying you sounded like DSP. You should say, if you could support the stream with a super chat, a super sticker, a membership, a gifted membership, that would be great. I really need to pay those bills, guys. To be honest, I don't know who DSP is, but it ain't wrong, right? Like, it's true. No, it's just because I'm trying real hard to grow the memberships here. Don't get me wrong. You guys being here watching, supporting, that's more than enough. I can't, but I can't help but get a little bit ahead of myself because I'm coming out here doing these streams. I'm seeing you guys. You're just coming out and you're showing incredible support. So I appreciate it, guys. Anybody who becomes a member, anybody who donates a super chat, and anybody who's watching, couldn't do what I do here without you guys. So very much appreciate it. And I gotta say, like, this is the timing is interesting, right? The timing is very interesting. Like, I'm out here, don't have much to talk about regarding PlayStation, and then PlayStation's like, you know what? Here's a new studio acquisition for you. Here's a new studio acquisition. I'm on Twitter now. I'm checking to see what else is going on. Yeah, so the studio, Firewalk Games, the studio was founded in 2018 by Bungie veterans working on AAA multiplayer PS5 PC title, 150 employees. Herman Holst says, exciting news today. We welcome Firewalk Studios to the PlayStation Studios. I'm thrilled to continue working with this talented team and to bring something truly incredible to players with this ambitious new multiplayer game. See, that's what gets me excited. We haven't seen, and I don't want to get ahead of myself. This is what I want to fucking see. This right here. I'm telling you this is going to be an FPS. I'm telling you that's what it's going to be. Not saying it's going to be the next Call of Duty or anything like that, but this is the Sony I want to see. Come out here, acquire a studio, talk about your ambition, their ambition, facilitate that, grow that, and let's see this game. Let's see this game. He says, talented team to bring something truly incredible to players with this ambitious new multiplayer game. Let's see it. I want to see that. I don't want to see Sony complaining about Call of Duty. I want to see them doing this. That's what I want to see. And I hope that this is a sign. I want them to confirm it. I know they're not going to. I wish they would confirm whether or not this is an FPS game. I feel like they are purposely holding that back. How could it not be an FPS game? You know what? Let's get a poll going. I want to get a poll going, and I want to ask you guys what you think. Is Firewalk Studios' new AAA IP an FPS? Oh, let me typo there. Let me know. I'm putting the poll out. Let me know what you think, because I'm curious. It has to be an FPS. Perfect Image, you're saying, I wonder how much Firewalk was, because Sony has $5 billion. Truthfully, this is where, look, Sony is acquiring studios like Firewalk. They've acquired Haven. These are two studios that have not proven anything. And that's important to note, okay? It's important to understand that these two studios that Sony has acquired, Firewalk and Haven, have proven nothing because they have produced nothing because they're new studios. What we know about them, we can infer a couple of things here, okay? So when we look at a studio like Firewalk and Haven, one of the things that's discussed about these studios is how they have a lot of veteran talent that has worked on some of the big, massive franchise games that are still successful today. That's a common theme with these two studios. Something else we can take from this is we know Sony doesn't just seemingly want to acquire literally anybody. They do care about quality. They care about having good games. You know, like, they don't just want any game. They want good games. They care about quality. So we know that Herman Holst, he's seen this game. This game's been in development for 5 years. It's probably really far along. At first, they were impressed enough to say, let's partner with you and we'll fund you. They come back almost 2 years later, and whatever they did with that funding, whatever they've been working on since that time they partnered with Sony, Sony's so impressed, they're like, what do you think about us buying you? So when it comes to how much they spent, probably not a lot. Probably not a lot, because that's the thing, is Sony is making it is a bit of a risk. It is, because the fact that the studio hasn't like they haven't produced anything that we've played, that the public has played, Herman is essentially looking at this product. This I'm telling you guys, we are going to learn how good or not good of a leader Herman Holst is for PlayStation Studios. We're going to learn about this because I think he's good. Like, I think Herman Holst does a great job with PlayStation Studios, but I don't think we've seen stuff like this. Now, what we are seeing is Herman sees these games and he's visiting these studios. He's supposed to be the guy that knows this game, this is going to be a banger. PlayStation fans are going to love this. Gamers are going to love this game. That's his job. His job is also to look at a game and know this ain't it. This ain't it, Chief. This is not the game. So when we finally see Haven Studios title and now Firewalk's title, they're banking on these games being really good, especially with Firewalk. Firewalk is much more interesting than Haven because the thing about Haven Studio, for those who don't know, Haven Studio was like one of the big reasons why Sony decided to acquire them is because of their technology. They're developing this AAA game inside of the cloud. It's not going to be a cloud game, but they're finding a new way to like streamline AAA game development. So regardless of how that game turns out, Sony mainly bought them because of the amount, like the way that they're developing their AAA game. Like they're coming up with new technology that no one else has. So I'm more interested in Firewalk because Sony deciding to acquire Firewalk tells me that they have something special. Sony has seen something that has made them say, we want to make you part of the PlayStation Studios family, and this could be the next big thing. And it might not be, but this is how I know for a fact Sony is lying. Sony is lying when they say it's impossible to compete with Call of Duty. If that was true, I'm telling you, they wouldn't be out here buying a studio like Firewalk. Now, maybe I'm way off the mark. We have to see the game. Again, we don't even know if it's a first-person shooter. But my money is on this is a FPS. This is a game that Sony thinks can be a big deal. And they want to be there. Sony has now put their seal of approval on it. That's the point. Sony is fully behind this game, not just funding it, not just supporting it. This is a PlayStation Studio title now. So I'm very interested. I am very interested to see what this game's going to be. And I really hope that this is the first sign that we are finally seeing Sony drop the act, stop pretending like the PlayStation brand is going to live or die based off of Call of Duty, and instead come out here. Let's get to work. Let's get the fans excited. Let's show you how we're going to keep this thing going. I think this is promising. I do. I can't help but be excited. Let me see. Josh, you're saying 2 years ago, Herman said Firewalk's game is nearly complete. Yeah, they did say it was in a playable state. And they said in this new write-up that they've been playtesting it every day. So I don't know, man. This could be a big deal. This could be a very big deal. Like, I am now wondering, like, if this could be the exact thing that Sony claimed that they couldn't do, that they don't have. I do wonder if that's what this could be. I'm not saying that this game's going to come out and this is the next Call of Duty. I'm not saying that, but we know the power of the PlayStation Studios logo. We know what people expect. We know that Sony doesn't just jump on any game, and I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm very interested. You know what my fear is, though? I gotta say, it would really suck if like Firewalk's game is revealed. And I'm just saying we have to put this out there as a possibility. We have to put it out there as a possibility. It's like they show off their game and it just doesn't look good. It's like Herman Holst is actually really not good at finding the next big thing. That would suck, but I don't think so. You're saying I forgot Firesprite? Yeah, but Firesprite did technically put out a game. They did put out a game technically, but I'm expecting that if PlayStation is confident enough to just buy this studio, I'm confident that they had to have seen something that looks pretty damn good. Like, I don't think that they would just buy a studio that looks like, maybe. Like if this was a big maybe, I mean, Herman is out here hyping it up himself already, man. He's saying, like, Herman's the guy that's been seeing this game, a lot. So we will see, man. All right, let me see what you got. Josh or Lyro, you're saying when the Mario movie reaches $1 billion in the box office, Sony needs more old IP to make more old IPs into films like Jack and Dexter, etc. I'm dying to see a Patapon movie. Dude, yeah, I mean, between the success of The Last of Us HBO and the Mario movie, yeah, I mean, we're seeing something new happen in this when it comes to taking games and doing not necessarily live action because that's not what Mario is, but bringing them to the big screen, bringing them to places like HBO. So I think Sony's going to continue to pursue that aggressively. Apparently it was good too. So Josh, again, you're saying I thought Firewalk was already under the developer Probably Monsters. I could be wrong, but if they were, they could also get Sifu Dev's Slow Clap. That's the thing is I almost feel like maybe Sony bought them from Probably Monsters, or I don't know how that works. They didn't really divulge that. So I'm not sure, but that would be interesting. Yeah, I loved Sifu, man. I can't wait to see what they do next. That was one of my favorite games from last year. So I didn't know that they were under Probably Monsters. And PSP Reviewer 100, remember for 1 month, you're saying there's no way it's not an FPS. That's what I'm thinking. Like, I want to make it clear that if it's not an FPS, that doesn't mean it's going to be bad or anything. I'm just saying, I want this to be an FPS because to me, that really is like, okay, just as I suspected, Sony's not just going to say, we're not going to try. Like, if Microsoft is going to get Activision Blizzard, and even though I think Call of Duty is still going to stay on PlayStation for a long, long time, I do want to see, like, if this is the type of competition. I mean, the question has to be asked: would Sony have acquired the studio? We know that they partnered with them. We know, like, Sony already had this game locked down as a PS exclusive. I need that to be understood. Sony didn't have to buy the studio. They already had it locked down as a PlayStation exclusive. I do wonder if maybe they're like, you know what, this is too good to let go and risk slipping through our fingers. Because if Microsoft is going to have Call of Duty, like, we got to try to jump on this stuff early. It could have influenced it, I would love to get more insight. Let me, I think there's actually a write-up at gamesindustry.biz that might give us a little bit more information. I want to go check to see. Let's see, games industry. PlayStation to acquire AAA multiplayer developer Firewalk Studios. I'm just skimming through it here to see if Firewalk was set up in 2018 as part of Probably Monsters, a collective of AAA game developers. It was formed by a number of Bungie devs, including studio head. Okay. Firewalk is the 20th developer to join PlayStation Studios. Wow, okay, 20th. Let me see. It says here, Firewalk's innovative approach to connected storytelling and high-quality gameplay continues to exceed our expectations. So that's what Herman Hulse said. I want to read that again. He says, Firewalk's innovative approach to connected storytelling and its commitment to high-quality gameplay continues to exceed our expectations. I think fans will be very pleased when they see what Firewalk has in store for them. Dude, I'm telling you, man, Herman is out here hyping up this game, bro. This is getting Herman's seal of approval. Herman Jawline Holst's seal of approval. It's happening. So I'm curious, dude. He seems to be under the impression that PlayStation fans are going to be hyped as hell when this is revealed. We'll see. We'll see. You're saying you trust Herman, not going to lie. Well, that's why it's easy for me to put faith in somebody like Herman Hulse saying this, because, dude, Herman Hulst is the one responsible for Horizon Zero Dawn, and the Killzone franchise. So yeah, it's like I if he tells me it's going to be good, I'm likely to believe. Okay, I believe you. I think it's probably going to be good, maybe really good. Starscream 3117, you're saying, MBG, I can't keep up with all these live streams you're doing. And you're laughing. You're saying, keep it up, man. Love the content. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't know that I'll be able to do live streams every single day, right? Like, there's probably going to be some breaks here and there, but I definitely enjoy this as well. I've been able to continue to put out my regular video content. There's been like almost no difference in that. And so just kind of adding this is another way to keep the content flowing and engage with you guys. Let me see what else he may have said here. The acquisition is part of PlayStation's push into live service games with 10 projects currently in development. Firewalk Studios is led by a world-class team that is highly experienced and deeply passionate about creating exceptional multiplayer games that foster memorable shared experiences, stated Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO and President Jim Ryan. So we got Jim Ryan chiming in. He continues to say, I'm confident the studio's upcoming project will be a robust addition to PlayStation Studios' portfolio, and its live service and technology expertise will be instrumental in helping grow PlayStation's reach. So Jim Ryan is giving his seal of approval here as well, saying that he's very confident in this studio. So it says Firewalk will no longer be part of Probably Monsters, which was founded by CEO Harold Ryan, former Bungie CEO, president, and chairman, and is all about building sustainable teams making original AAA games. So it says here, Probably Monsters is incredibly proud of the team and the game we've incubated and built over the past few years. Firewalk Studios joining PlayStation Studios is a brilliant move for the team, game, and future players. Our goal at Probably Monsters is to find the best path to market for all of our games, and we couldn't be happier for the Firewalk team. So that's interesting. That's very interesting. Probably Monsters, that initiative also sounds interesting. That sounds basically like a startup for like, hey, if you have some crazy game ideas, maybe we can get them off the ground and then we can pitch them to publishers. That's actually pretty cool. So Chris B coming in with the 5 gifted memberships. Thank you so much, Chris. Coming in a little bit late here. Let me see who got those memberships gifted. Aaron was gifted a membership. B Flesher, Top Shotta. We have Robert McLeod, I think if I'm saying your name correctly. Stephen J. All gifted memberships thanks to Chris B. Big shout out to Chris B. Thank you so much for that, man. Really appreciate it, dude. Huge shout out. Huge shout out to Chris B. So you're going to, let me, what is that? The counter should be at 12 now. So we're at 12 memberships. There we go. Dude, I'm going to have to figure that out. That is so obnoxious. Just it going back to back to back. So, yeah, thank you, Chris B. Thank you to everybody who has been gifting memberships. If you want to pay it forward, if you want to keep it going, get the train going, feel free to do so. So, yeah, there we go. We have Sony coming out on a Thursday afternoon announcing, hey, we've acquired yet another studio. And, man, I hope that this is the beginning of something great, man. I really do. I'm going to have to go follow Firewalk on Twitter now. I really hope that this is the beginning of something great. So, Firewalk Studios said, we are delighted to share that Firewalk is joining PlayStation Studios. It's an honor to become part of such a talented community of developers and begin the next chapter in our studio's journey. And I just want to point out, I'm not trying to be a dick here, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to say it. I'm going to point it out. All right? Because I'm telling you, you're not going to see a lot of other people say this, but I'll say it because it's just true. It's true. Like, this is the difference between the way Sony approaches acquisition and the way that Microsoft approaches acquisition, okay? Lee 3000, thank you for becoming a member, my friend. Welcome aboard. Shout out to Lee 3000 joining the Greatness Awaits membership tier. Big thank you and a big shout out. But I just want to say that look, I'm not even going to be snarky about it, okay? I'm just going to point it out and let you guys determine yourself. But this truly is the difference between the way that Sony goes about acquiring studios and the way that Microsoft does. Yes, the biggest acquisition that Sony has made is Bungie, but Bungie is not comparable to something like Activision Blizzard. It never will be. But this is the difference. And to me, this is more exciting. Just straight up. I know people are going to think that's not true, but it really is. Because you know what? I get that there are going to be people that get excited at, hey, I could get Call of Duty in Game Pass, save some money. Other Activision Blizzard games, save me some money. That's great. That's a good reason to get excited. But this is more exciting to me because Sony is investing in something new here. Sony is heavily investing. I mean, they straight up bought the studio. They're investing in something brand new, a new IP, a new studio, and this is what the industry needs. Like, the industry needs new stuff. And this is why I think I know there have been people who've gotten on Sony's case where it's like, well, we're getting more God of War, we're getting more Horizon, and it's just seen is this what Sony's going to be going forward? It's just going to be sequel after sequel, not enough new IP. So Sony has multiple studios right now that are working on new IP, but now they have another one. Sony, I want that to be brought to the forefront here. Is what we are seeing is Sony bringing on another brand new AAA IP, PlayStation IP. That's what we're seeing here. We don't know what it is yet. We haven't seen it revealed, but I love to see it, man. Like, that gets me very excited, and I just want to give Sony a lot of credit for that because that is, to me, that is a difference maker. That is something that I think matters, and I think it's going to matter more so going forward than it maybe ever has. So good times, guys. Good times. I guess at this point, the big question is going to be whether or not this game shows up at the upcoming showcase. I have to imagine it's going to. It has to, right? Like, at this point in time, it's clear that the game is close to being, if not close to being finished, like in the final stages of development or very late in development. And so, I mean, yeah, I wonder who's next. I wonder who's next. I wonder if Deviation is going to end up getting acquired by Sony. You gotta wonder, man. You gotta wonder. Dude. I gotta tell. I'm dying to know. I am dying to know if like I just keep checking Twitter to see if it's like confirmed or not. If this is a first person shooter, I want to know the answer to that because in my opinion, if it's revealed that this is a first person shooter, that to me is a huge deal because it signals a complete shift in Sony's in their mindset with this whole situation. It signals to the PlayStation fan base what a lot of us have been asking for, what a lot of us have been wanting Sony to do, which is please start trying to make your own first person shooters. So yeah, there we go. I mean, I don't know if there's really much else left to be said here. We talked about Spider-Man 2. We talked about this interesting report where Microsoft is basically coming out and saying we have a game that's going to take 10 years to develop. We're screwing up and we need you guys to understand that this is why we need Activision Blizzard. And that points to the fact that AAA games are needed. No matter what you're doing, whether you're doing a service, whether you're doing anything else, you need content. You need quality content at a consistent rate. Whether you're trying to sell a console, get people into a subscription service, or anything else. And then we closed out the stream with a little surprise that Sony has officially acquired Firewalk Studios. So good stuff here, man. Good stuff. I gotta say, like, I'm wondering now, like, what else lies ahead for PlayStation Studios? Surely some good things. Surely some good things. So let me go check this poll though. See what you guys said. So the poll has 329 votes. 87% of you say yes, Firewalk Studios' new AAA IP is an FPS game. 13% of you are saying no, it's not. So the overwhelming majority believe that it is going to be a new FPS shooter. I don't know why I said FPS, a first-person shooter, a new FPS. Thing didn't say much about Spider-Man, truthfully, because there's not a whole lot to say. There's not. I would love to talk more about Spider-Man, but I talked about it pretty much as I possibly could. You know, there's so little to go off of. That's the problem. But I'm glad Sony came through today. They're like, here's a studio acquisition. And I'll take that. I'll take that. I will be happy about that. But all right, I'm going to go to the chat now for a little bit. If you guys want to chat with me before I head out, I'm going to try to start doing this more often. Usually on days where I don't really get, to the 2.5, 3 hour mark. Chat with you guys, just see what you're saying, hang out for a couple minutes before I head out. Surprised I haven't seen you talk about the Media Molecule guy leaving. No, I have. I talked about that. I had that was on, I think, Tuesday's stream, as well as my video. Have I seen X Defiant? I have seen it. It looks promising, yeah. I would like to play it at some point. It looks promising. What do I think Sony will buy next? Blue Box Studios. Now, I mean, I feel like we see a trend here, right? Like we saw Sony partner with Haven. They bought Haven. We saw Sony partner with Firewalk. They now bought Firewalk. I think next in line is they're partnered with Deviation Games. And I mean, I'm not saying Sony's just going to buy anybody that they're partnered with, but it's clear that it's clear that, at least in Sony's mind, they're making the right moves. They're partnering with the right developers and the right teams. Ember Labs, yeah, that would be a good one, man. That would make a lot of sense. I'll tell you what, I feel a lot less confident that Sony's going to buy a publisher. I don't think Sony's going to buy a publisher. I mean, just because they bought Firewalk doesn't mean that they wouldn't also buy a publisher. But I think as time goes on, guys, I think it's looking less likely that Sony's actually going to go for a big publisher. I don't even think they need it. I really don't know that they need a big publisher. I saw that, yeah. Meta laid off a lot of developers at Ready at Dawn, including the studio director or the head of the studio. Pathetic. I can't believe that Ready at Dawn got bought up by Meta. You hate to see it. You hate to see it. Are Sony bringing back old IPs or making new ones? To be honest, it seems like Sony is more focused on making new IP than bringing back old IP, which I think is fantastic. Frankly, if I had to choose between the two, I want some new IP. I do, because when I look at what Sony's done with the new intellectual properties they brought out in the past decade, I mean, they've been absolutely killing it. Absolutely killing it. Saying Final Fantasy 16 looks so good. It does look really good. It really does. Gamer Pro says PlayStation buys seeds and grows them. Microsoft buys threes and plants them in their in their, I don't know if you meant trees, and buys them in their dry soil. A planted tree will never behave in the same way in a new environment unless in Microsoft's. It's interesting. I mean, I said no more analogies. Did I not? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. That's actually a pretty good analogy. That makes sense. MBG, this is your live service, and you hate it for that. Well, here's the thing. So that's actually something that's worth noting. We're once again seeing Sony come out and talk about their live service efforts. They haven't been hiding it, and they're clearly working on it very diligently behind the scenes. I'm telling you right now, you're gonna see it happen. You're gonna just wait and watch. You're gonna see it happen. There are a lot of PlayStation players and a lot of PlayStation fans right now that if you were to say to them, "Is that a spider? What is that? Is that a spider? Oh, what that wasn't a spider. It was a big ass gnat." Sorry, it's got really distracted. I just see something like buzzing around in the corner there. If you were to ask PlayStation players right now, how do you feel about Sony developing and investing in a lot of live service games? How do you feel about that? A lot of them are going to say, I don't like it. I don't want it. I hate it. But I promise you that after they see some of these games, they're going to change their tune. They're going to change their tune. Because I think that the idea of live service, Sony has not really pushed live service. They haven't really embraced it. And a lot of the publishers that we have seen embrace it have done a really, I mean, some of them have done a good job, but others have done a really, really poor job and left a really bad taste in people's mouths. And I think when you take into account PlayStation quality, PlayStation Studios quality, you take into account that they really don't have many multiplayer games. You take into account that they now have Bungie to assist them with, how to properly run a live service game. I don't know, man. Like, I keep thinking about The Last of Us multiplayer, and I think The Last of Us multiplayer is going to convert a lot of PlayStation fans. It's going to be really fun to watch because a lot of PlayStation fans are going to watch, they're going to see the trailer, the first trailer for The Last of Us multiplayer, and it's going to dawn on them. Like, it's going to hit them like, wait a second. So you're telling me that I can boot up my PlayStation and I can just continually re-enter the world of The Last of Us and experience that gameplay and experience updates with new characters, new storylines, and I can play it solo, or I can play it cooperatively with my friends, or I can play PvP. I could do a wave-based mode. Maybe that's something they'll have where I can just survive against hordes of clickers with my friend. And I'm telling you, their eyes are going to be open. They're going to realize, like, holy shit, this is amazing. I can create my own character. I can customize them. I can choose to join a specific faction. I can unlock new weapons and level up. I can go out exploring and looting. I'm telling you, man. And like when they realize, like, dude, this and I'm doing this, this is a Naughty Dog quality game. This is a Naughty Dog quality game. That sounds like it's going to be awesome. I'm not saying everybody's going to be won over. Like there are just some people, and I respect that some people just don't like multiplayer. And they just want, like, if it's not a single player narrative driven game, they're not interested. I respect that. But I do think that like let me put it to you this way. Firewalk, you're saying, Josh, you're saying, wait, what? Firewalk is already over 140 devs? Over 150 devs, actually. Yes, they are a massive AAA team. They're a big AAA team. I'm telling you now, you're going to, If Firewalk Games, when they show off their game, let's just say it's a cutting edge first person shooter. I don't know. What are you guys thinking? You think it's going to be fantasy based? You think it's going to be sci-fi? You think it's going to be modern military? Maybe sci-fi. Maybe like a Halo, a type of Halo, maybe. Just considering their their Bungie developers, maybe something like that. Dude, if it comes out and it looks amazing, PlayStation fans are going to go fucking nuts. They're going to go nuts. I think people forget that PlayStation fans are also the ones that went nuts for Killzone and Resistance. You know? I understand that it's been a long time since Sony has embraced multiplayer, but I think some people tend to forget that, dude, PlayStation fans loved multiplayer shooters and multiplayer games. Warhawk, anybody? You know, we got a new Twisted Metal coming. And here's the thing. The greatest thing about this is none of this is coming at the expense of single player games. Yeah, MAG. None of this is coming at the expense of Sony's upcoming single player game pipeline. Doesn't that sound amazing to you? This is what I'm saying. Like, I've been trying to tell people, Sony is looking to fire on all cylinders at all times. They want the best of all worlds, and they're working towards that. They want to be the kings of narrative single-player games. They are. They are the kings of that. And they release these games more consistently than anybody. But now they want to dive into multiplayer, and when they want to take that same quality first approach with multiplayer and with live service. And they want to win, not just in the single player area, but the multiplayer area. And you're going to see with that diverse games, different games, all releasing at different times in different ways. I'm telling you, this is why I've been going nuts. People say, like, MBG, you're crazy. You keep talking about a PlayStation showcase. Like, just give it a rest. It's like, dude, it's because I don't think people understand. Most people don't understand. Do you know how many fucking projects Sony has in the works right now? I am telling you, Sony has absolutely been holding back because of the Activision situation. Absolutely. If we could see what all the different things PlayStation Studios is working on right now, and if Sony revealed that publicly, everybody would be saying, okay, yeah, let Microsoft have that. That's what everybody would be saying. And Sony knows it, which is why they're not showing it. How many people have already forgotten that a new multiplayer, I think it's a multiplayer game. I don't know if it's multiplayer, but it's a new sci-fi third-person shooter from People Can Fly, PS5 exclusive. That leaked. Bet you everybody forgot about it. We actually saw a snippet of gameplay. Very early gameplay. You could tell pre-alpha. That's a partnership Sony has. That's an exclusive game Sony has coming. And people liked what they saw. Now, I'm not saying People Can Fly is the same as, Bungie or Guerrilla. No, but the potential's there, man. That's an exclusive game that's in development. Just another project. We just don't know about it yet. That's just that leak just came out of nowhere. I don't think people quite understand just how much Sony actually has going on. And those who do have an idea and those who do know, this is why we have been saying, like, we need a showcase. I think people forget that Sony bought Firesprite. Firesprite has like 3 different games in development right now. That's a single studio under Sony right now that has like 3 different games in development. One's a survival horror game. I don't know if it's survival horror, but it's a horror game. And the other is some kind of multiplayer title. They have a Twisted Metal in development. There's apparently another Uncharted in development. Sucker Punch is working on Ghost of Tsushima 2. We got Ben Studio working on a new IP. We got Team Asobi probably working on another Astro game. We know Insomniac's not only working on Spider-Man 2, but Wolverine. Haven's working on a new IP. Fire Sprite's working on a new IP. Bluepoint has been working on something since 2020. Probably since before 2020. Housemarque's working on a new IP. I mean, are you guys getting an idea? This is why I'm saying, like, dude, I do not feel sorry for Sony, and I don't want to hear about Call of Duty. Like, Sony is they know what they're doing. They know what they got, and they're sitting on what they got. Rise of the Ronin, yeah, the partner. We haven't even talked about partnership games. Rise of the Ronin, Death Stranding 2, Silent Hill 2 Remake, Stellar Blade, The Last of Us multiplayer. Not a partner game, but yes, The Last of Us multiplayer. You see what I'm saying? London Studio working on a new IP. Possibly a Metal Gear Solid remake exclusive, potentially. Lost Soul aside. It just goes on and on and on. But Jim Ryan should get fired. And that's where I'll end it. Wait, no, sorry, Maxwell. I'm sorry, buddy. I forgot your super chat. My bad. You're saying this purchase means that they are giving up on fighting for ABK. From now on, Sony will start to acquire all the studios that they had in holding all this time. I hope so. I absolutely hope so. I hope that this marks the beginning, because I'm telling you, last thing I'll say here. Yeah, where is Project Awakening? Yeah, Cory Barlog's working on a new IP at Santa Monica Studio, by the way. Pixel Opus is working on a new IP. Media Molecule's working on a new IP. It still goes on. I'm still going on here. How am I still going on? People forget, man. Where's Deep? Dude, somebody in the chat is asking, where's Deep Down? Where's Deep Down? Bro, if you're there's no way somebody's out here still waiting for Deep Down, right? There's just no way. That is funny, bro. That is funny. Oh, and there's also the Star Wars KOTOR remake, which we'll see what ends up happening with that, but that's just another one. Deviation Games. I'm still going, dude. I'm still going. How am I still going? Sony has so much in development, dude. It's not even funny. So when Microsoft says we need Activision Blizzard, I think that this is why. But yeah, Maxwell, to get back to your super chat, man, I mean, I really, really hope, sincerely, I hope that with Sony coming out here, I want you guys to pay attention to the timing of this, okay? The timing of this, we are 6 days away. We are about a week away from the CMA giving their final verdict, which it's already kind of come out. The CMA is going to approve Microsoft's purchase of Activision Blizzard. I've speculated that once that happens, Sony is done. Like, Sony is bowing out. They're taking their L. They gave it their best shot, but now it's time to shift gears and shift focus. I hope this is the first sign of that. I hope this is the first sign of that, because I don't know, man. I'm so ready to just see Sony finally come out and take the gloves off, be a competitor, be that company that knows like what you got. Sony knows what they got. Sony knows the power they wield. They know how they got where they are. And I want to see them come out with that energy, I hope this is the first sign of that. Papa Moist, nice name, Papa Moist. Saying, do you think Sony will keep buying IPs from third-party publishers? I think so. Dude, I'm going to tell you right now, something that I don't know if people are going to be excited for this. I guess if you're a PlayStation player, you might be. And if you like exclusive content, I'm telling you, once Sony decides to take the gloves off, if they haven't already, like once they finally give up and say, yeah, they're going to get Activision Blizzard and there's nothing we can do about it, you're going to see Sony go after third-party exclusivity even harder. even harder. Sony is going to do things to spite Xbox. That's what's going to happen. Because I'll tell you, the fact that Sony was willing to come out here and look this foolish publicly, even though they didn't necessarily want it to be public, but they knew it was going to be made public. The fact that Sony was willing to come out and fight this hard and look potentially this foolish in front of everybody public, and Sony still loses in the end. They don't stop anything. Microsoft gets Activision Blizzard. I don't know if people have been paying attention over the past couple of decades what kind of company Sony is. People got to better buckle up, because Microsoft basically started a war. Why? I mean, you could argue Sony started it, and Microsoft is now engaged in it in a very different way. But Sony's not done. So people who are upset at Sony for third-party games now, or buying third-party exclusivity, once Microsoft has Activision Blizzard, that's going to increase. I would be surprised if I was wrong. I mean, we do have to understand it doesn't mean Sony's just going to buy any game, and it's also about partnerships. Like, just because Sony's willing to try to strike a deal doesn't mean it's going to happen, But I think Sony's going to get even more aggressive, and I think they're going to put even more money towards that, because I don't know, man. I just get that feeling, right? Like, that's what I would do if I was Sony and I saw that this, I basically beat Microsoft to become the leader in the console space, and then Microsoft is just like, well, we're just going to outspend you. Dude, at that point, I am going to leverage my position in the industry. I am going to leverage that, and I'm going to go around to every publisher, to every third-party publisher, and say, hey, let's make a deal. Your game will sell probably really well on our platform. We'll help fund it. We'll help market it. That's the advantage that Sony still has. Microsoft doesn't. Do I think Microsoft is scared? No. I don't know, man. They might be. Because I'll tell you right now, if I was Microsoft and I'm looking at the earnings reports, Xbox console sales down, I'm telling you, Microsoft is going to be reporting their earnings, I think, next week. I'm so curious to see, do we hear anything about Game Pass numbers? Anything at all? I bet you we won't. And so, I don't know, man. I'm not saying that Microsoft is necessarily scared, but I will say that there's a reason why they felt like they have to fight so hard for Activision Blizzard. There's a reason for that. I think that they understand now that this really is the only way they're going to make their business model work. And they have to brute force it. That's the fact, man. Microsoft has to brute force their way to success. Sony does not. Sony does not need to brute force their way to stay on top. They just have to. Honestly, Sony's doing exactly what they should be doing. They have to be strategic. They have to be aware that you're not Microsoft. You can't use Microsoft's tactics, but you are Sony and you are PlayStation, and you can use a lot of other tactics that you've been using that can be just as effective. And that's what I think is interesting that we've been witnessing is Sony's tactics, as you can see, like, just look at the console sales. As I said, what Sony's doing is extremely effective. This is why I've been saying, why the hell isn't Microsoft copying what Sony's doing? Because it's working. That's the wild part that I don't quite understand. I guess Microsoft must see something that I don't. Maybe it really does lie in Call of Duty, because maybe Microsoft at the end of the day being able to say, we can give you Call of Duty in Game Pass. Maybe that makes up for like almost everything. In my eyes, it doesn't. But from like a business perspective, from like a numbers perspective, it just might be the key to Game Pass's success. And I will say this too. I do want to add, I firmly believe that if Microsoft really does get Game Pass to a really successful spot, after acquiring Activision. If Call of Duty really does do the heavy lifting for Game Pass and gets it to a much, much better spot, and then you start hearing every quarterly earnings report, they're like, and here's how many new subscribers we got, and Game Pass has hit a new milestone. I think they're going to be perfectly fine keeping Call of Duty on PlayStation permanently, because that's the thing, man. Like, Call of Duty going to Game Pass is either going to make Game Pass successful or it's not. And if it doesn't, it might have to eventually, after 10 years, go exclusive, and then that will make it successful. But I doubt that will be needed if what Microsoft believes is true. Let me see here. Brett Williams, you're saying this might be the last Xbox generation. They'll move into third-party publishing. There's no way Microsoft greenlights new consoles when Game Pass is the focus. I don't know, man. To be honest, the reason why I don't think Microsoft won't do that is because I'm sorry, they can't do it. They know they can't do that. They cannot pull the rug out from underneath their console fan base. Their console fan base may be pretty small, and it's not like super small, but it doesn't go on to reach like great heights, right? Like the Xbox Series console probably isn't going to hit 70 or 80 million units sold. It might, it's hard to say, but right now it's not looking good. But even then, like, they have to remain committed. They do. I think it would be insane. That would be that I don't even want to talk about that day, because that will be both a very interesting but also sad day. Like, I could only imagine how Xbox players would feel, like Xbox buyers, if the next generation Microsoft is like, we're not making an Xbox. That doesn't even make sense. Like, unless Sony is like, we're going to allow Game Pass on PlayStation, there's just no way. Xbox is still a vehicle, even though it's not the priority. It's still an important vehicle that Microsoft uses to push Game Pass. But I still don't think it's going to be the priority. That'd be wild, man. Biggity08, you're saying, just remember, the more Sony buys, the more Xbox can buy. Well, that's the thing, dude. When we talk about the whole Activision Blizzard thing, one of the conversations that has sparked up time and time again is a lot of people are afraid that if this deal goes through and, Microsoft owns Activision Blizzard 100% now, it opens the floodgates. It basically sends a signal to all the Tencents, all the Googles, all the Metas, all the Amazons that, hey, open season out here, right? Like, everybody's up for grabs, and no one can stop you. I don't know that it's necessarily that the more Sony buys, the more Xbox can, because the reality is Xbox is already buying what they want. It's just a matter of, are they going to be allowed to do so? And Sony's not the one that gets to determine that. Sony's trying to influence it. Sony's trying to stop it, but Sony doesn't get to determine that. The regulators do. And right now, we're reaching a point where it seems like the only regulator that's still going to stand against Microsoft is the FTC, and it seems like they're going to lose their battle in court. There's a lot of pressure being applied to the FTC right now, and there's a lot of questioning. Lena Khan, we talked about this earlier. She's the chairman of the FTC. A lot of people are calling into question, should she be the chairman? Like, should she be allowed to remain the chairman here? Because if I'm not mistaken, she's lost already in the past. If I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken on that, but I'm pretty sure she's lost in court. And now she's doing it again. And it's looking like it's going to be another loss. So, at this point, to me, it's not so much. I would say it's actually the other way around. Truthfully, I'd say that if the more that Xbox buys, because you have to keep in mind, Sony has just bought a couple studios here and there, and Bungie. That's nothing compared to buying Activision Blizzard and Bethesda. It's nothing. It's just not the same, not even close. I would argue that if this Activision Blizzard deal goes through, that gives Sony the green light if they want. If Sony decides, you know what? Time to get a loan. We're going to go out shopping for a publisher. I think that gives Sony the green light. I don't know that they should. I don't think they will. But I think that's the situation we're in right now. Because if that's true, like if it's true that after Activision Blizzard is acquired, the green light is given, the dam breaks, the floodgates open, and here we go. Sony might really feel like we got to get in on this now before it's too late. But that might not happen. That might not I don't think it's a guarantee. I think there's a decent chance. I think people have this idea that if the ABK deal goes through, suddenly literally everybody's going to be purchased. I don't think that's going to happen. It could. It could. We've seen it happen in the past in other industries. So it's definitely a possibility, but there is also the chance that maybe nothing will change that dramatically. Maybe because I know that Microsoft, they won't want to stop. But at the same time, maybe they can. Like if Activision Blizzard is enough for them, maybe they'll stop. But see how that just doesn't make sense though? Like when do you ever see that? Like, oh, that this big company, this giant entity that likes to consume things is full now. It's had enough. When does that ever happen in big business? It never happens. So that's why, even though there's a chance, it's a very, very, very slim one. The reality is, after this deal with Activision Blizzard goes through, Microsoft is not going to stop. This is why I've been saying Sony needs, like, they're doing it now. They are doing it. Sony is doing it. They're just being quiet about it. I've been saying for a long time, like, Sony needs to basically arm themselves, man, like, in the best way that they know how. They need to leverage their greatest strengths and not double, not triple, literally quadruple down on them because they're going to need it. If Sony wants any chance of remaining the leader in the next decade and making sure that somebody doesn't just come and knock them off the hill, they're going to have to make sure that they can fire on all cylinders consistently while still being a viable company that is, out here shopping around themselves and making moves themselves. So I'm telling you, man, that things are going to be very interesting. I feel like the buildup with this acquisition has been very fucking boring. Like just listening to both Sony and Microsoft whine and me as well, whine back and forth at each other over this. The rubber's going to hit the road at some point. And that's when things are going to get interesting. That's when things are going to get exciting because that's when the gloves are coming off. That's when there's no more of this nonsensical run around back and forth petty bullshit. It's, ding, ding. It's ding, ding. Get in the ring. It's time to go. And that to me is exciting. So it's ding, ding. You tell I'm at that point now. Papa Moist again saying Sony has a good relationship with Rockstar. That they do. I'm not going to... Look, I've said it already during the stream, but I will continue to say it. I promise you, you're going to see... I don't want to promise you, but I have a very, very good hunch. GTA 6 will be at the PlayStation Showcase. And it's going to, that's what I'm talking about. That's the power PlayStation wields. PlayStation has worked on their partnership with Rockstar for many years now to maintain it. Most importantly, PlayStation has what Rockstar wants. I want to say that again. PlayStation has what Rockstar wants. What Rockstar wants is to market their game on the console that's more widely available. That's what they want. It's going to be available on all consoles, of course, like the Xbox and PlayStation. But they want to market it on the console. I'm telling you, you better believe major publishers are looking at Hogwarts Legacy. They're looking at that state of play that Sony did. They're looking at that marketing deal and they're going, holy shit, that could be us. Maybe. Right? If we have a big enough IP, I'm telling you, Sony is out here. That's the leverage they need, that they have, and they can continue to put that forth. And people may not know this. I've been saying, I know a lot of you know it, but people don't quite understand the power of marketing, truly. You see GTA 6 being marketed alongside the PS5 this generation's over for Xbox. It is. It's already over. But that's the final nail in the coffin. Sony would literally not have to do anything else to outsell the Xbox consoles. But then again, that's why Microsoft is thinking about the next generation already, because there's a decent chance that what Microsoft might be thinking in the back of their mind is, okay, go ahead, beat the shit out of our Xbox Series consoles, outsell us once again, have all the glory, but come the next generation, you know what the PlayStation 6 is going to lose? Call of Duty. And you know what Xbox is going to have exclusively? Call of Duty. I don't know if that's going to happen, but people are not asking what's Microsoft's plan after that 10-year deal expires. Has anybody asked Microsoft what their plan is after the 10 years? No, nobody has asked them, and they haven't answered as far as I'm aware. And the reason for this is because it's obvious, in my opinion. Like, I don't know that they know what they want to do yet, but I think that's certainly a possibility. So, anyway, that's going to do it, guys. Oh, really quick, Papa Moisture saying Xbox had a chance to put GTA 3 on Xbox, but didn't. Microsoft had to pay Rockstar a lot of money during the 360 era. But let me ask you, why did Rockstar partner with the Xbox 360 with GTA 4? Of course, money, but I think it's obvious. It's because the 360 at that time was the market leader. They had more consoles out in the market. You see, that's the power of being the best seller in the console market. Yeah, money as well, for sure. They didn't get it for free, but there's a reason why Microsoft was even able to negotiate that in the first place. It all comes down to the hardware, the console. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it before this goes on too long. That does it for today's episode of Rant or Hype with MBG. I want to once again thank everybody for joining me. It was a good episode, I think. Definitely, first episode with a little surprise in there that I wasn't expecting. I want to give a big shout out to all of my channel members. Really appreciate you guys. A big shout out to everybody who became a new member or decided to gift memberships. Really appreciate the support. You guys are awesome. Can't thank you enough for what you do. I also want to give a big shout out to everybody who donated a super chat. They're just as important. And I am fan funded here. So it's that fan funding that really means a lot, really goes a long way. And I've been enjoying doing these streams, and I've been trying to keep the content flowing. And so my goal is to do another stream tomorrow on Friday, but it really depends on, we're approaching the end of the week. We might be a little light on topics. I don't just want to put a stream out for the sake of doing so if there's literally nothing to talk about that's relevant. So we'll see what comes out tomorrow. I'll do a stream if there's something worth discussing. If not, I'll still be doing the podcast on Sunday, and then we'll keep it going on Monday. But there you go, guys. Hit the like button on your way out. That's the last thing I'm going to ask of you. And that's it. I will catch you guys in the next one. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their day.